Thank you, Belma, and thank you for all your assistance in preparing for this webinar. We know it's always a process, so thank you for your professionalism. So we'll dive in. We'll formally start in just a minute or so with the webinar. And in the meantime, while we wait one more minute for the last folks to join, I think Belma's putting up a little poll, a 2-question poll that hopefully all of you can see now. And in that poll, just we'll see the real-time results. I'll put this over to the side. There are 2 questions, really just questions about your campus climate and why you're here today. How you're thinking about specifically the priority of building sense of belonging on your campus. Is that a high priority, low priority? Where are you today? So we'll let you keep at that. And the second question is about staff bandwidth and initiative fatigue and things of that nature, if those are priority items on your campus today. Can everybody see the poll results that are coming in here on my screen? There you go. Thank you, Belma. All right. So we'll let that keep coming in, and at 2:05 we'll look at the results of that poll. In the meantime, I want to introduce our panel here today. Again, I'm Christopher Quinn, a Chief Operating Officer for Nearpeer, and I've been here with Nearpeer basically since its inception in 2018. Before that, a long career in higher education, and I can really appreciate all the specific challenges that all of you are dealing with. We'll have Dr. Hunter and Dr. Cantrell introduce themselves and their campuses in a moment. But Dr. Hunter is AVP for Enrollment Services at Cal State University Northridge, affectionately known as CSUN, and Dr. Cantrell is AVP of Enrollment from Cal State University Bakersfield, CSUB. So we're using that acronym as we go. And so let's take a look at these results. Improving sense of belonging. Yeah, about 40%. Say this is a 10, a big priority on campus, and the vast majority are at 8 or above on that question. So I think we're in the right place, and hopefully our discussion today will be relative. Also about campus staffing and burnout and initiative fatigue when we're looking at doing new things. This one's more variable. This is interesting to see. I know this was a huge issue last year, and I think hopefully things are normalizing a little bit for all of you. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and we can close out that poll, and let's get underway with the content here. Oops. There it goes. What we'll cover today is a little bit about these campuses, a little bit about Nearpeer, how we can build belonging on our campuses with Nearpeer and other initiatives. I think that's important. How we've studied Nearpeer together with CSUN, and CSUB'S experience with Nearpeer, where we just started back in the fall. So we're about to launch our second group there. And then we'll hear some student voices and have plenty of time for Q&A. The macro problem here, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And sometimes we forget, we all studied Maslow's hierarchy at some point in psychology 101, and love and belong is right in the middle of that pyramid. It's so essential to the path to being self-actualized, and sometimes we forget that. This is a fundamental sort of human need and student need. A lot of people are talking about this today, which is terrific, because mental health and wellness of our students is so important. We see here the Surgeon General is on a 5-campus tour talking about belonging and how it impacts loneliness and mental health, and the recognition that Gen Z is particularly impacted here by this problem. Okay, So today, we'll cover a lot of data. I want to give you sort of a preview. From our perspective at Nearpeer, this is the problem we want to address, and we want to address it in a way that's measurable and significant. We're going to be talking about the impact of Nearpeer in a randomized control study with Cal State Northridge, but we'll come back to those results later. So, moving on to CSUB and CSUN, let me give you a little bit of the IPEDS data on first Bakersfield and then on Northridge, and then I'll hand it over to you, Dr. Cantrell, to talk a little bit about, your campus, your vision for your university, its priorities, et cetera, and who you're serving. We'll see this is a common theme: 81% minority enrollment by IPEDS measures at CSUB, 68% Hispanic. So very significant. In the Cal State system, this is a medium-sized campus with just over 8,000 undergraduate students and a 4-year graduation rate of about 22%. And we all know the IPED standards often understate this number, but by that measure, that's where it is. Predominantly female population that we see at CSUB. So with that intro, let me hand it over to you, Dr. Cantrell, and your perspectives on your students and how you serve them and your thoughts.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Quinn. So thank you all for joining this presentation. So Bakersfield, just for context of those who do not live in California, Bakersfield is probably about 100 miles north of Los Angeles. So we are in the kind of at the tip of Southern California. We are in what is known as the San Joaquin Valley. And so we're in a location that is actually one of the highest food producers in the United States. Lots of agriculture in our particular area in Kern County. And so when we look at the type of community that we have in the county and in this particular region, there is a large farm working region, lots of hospitals, prisons, just the whole type of gamut that you could run across in terms of the valley. But we are very near and dear to our community in Kern County, in the Kern County area. So we're very regional. We do have an international population. We do have a number of out-of-state students, but we are very dear to our particular region. So most of our students do come from our area. Students who live in this area, for the most part, like to stay in this area. So many of our graduates remain in the Kern County area as educators, doctors, lawyers, and the like. So there are quite a few professionals in our area and others in our area that will say they are alums of Cal State Bakersfield. And so that's the type of university we are. We do have a total of about 10,000 students. And so that's where we are. And we're very, very strategic and have been acknowledged as one of the top schools, one of the top universities in the country for upward mobility of those who live in our region. So that's very important as well. So very diverse and lots of other things I can bring to later. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And before I hand it over to David, we saw another participant join on the screen here. That's Tom Deshane. He's from the Nearpeer team. He's monitoring the Q&A section for us. So his camera's off, but we're happy to have you here too, Tom. Thank you. Next, we'll go to Northridge with a similar perspective, a larger institution, undergraduate by IPEDS, about 32,000. Also a minority serving institution with about 57% Hispanic students, and you see the remaining breakout there on the list. A little bit more evenly split between males and females, and we'll talk to that as well. So with that little data background, David, tell us about CSUN in a couple minutes.
Well, it's good to be with you all, and thank you, Christopher, for hosting. Similar, I'll just start similarly to Dwayne. So California State University Northridge is located in what's called the San Fernando Valley, which is just a bit north of Los Angeles proper. It is a large population center, so we are very much an urban campus. Over the course of its history, the population that is served by CSUN has changed pretty dramatically. So in its early days in the 50s, when the institution started, and really up until the early 2000s, it was a predominantly white institution. And the San Fernando Valley and Northridge in particular shifted from orange groves to business and industry. And so in 2006, the Hispanic or Latinx population became the largest majority population at our institution, and that is one of the largest populations that we continue to serve. And that has a lot of opportunities for us in terms of impacting our families and change. And as Dwayne mentioned, CSUN and many of the CSU campuses have been able to make significant progress in social mobility, and that's been recognized by the Wall Street Journal. And so both in terms of being able to take students from their current economic status and for them to pursue professions and careers that significantly improve their family wealth and their financial wealth is part of what the CSU does. But it also generates, I don't know if this is a known thing, but 1 in 20 college graduates in the United States is a CSU alum. And so that tells you the impact of the system at large, and certainly CSUN is a part of that. One of the things that we've struggled with over the course of the years is a declining retention rate for both first-time freshmen and first-time transfer, particularly coming out of the pandemic. And not only retention, but also persistence. Those students that initially enrolled and then have subsequently dropped out for a variety of different reasons. And so, that'll be part of our conversation in the coming minutes.
Introducing Nearpeer. We are really focused, a mission-driven company focused on student belonging and human connection in a healthy way. And we want to leverage technology to help build real connection and relationships. That's really why we come to work every day. We've done everything to be distinct. We follow the Surgeon General's tech guidance on design principles and how people interacting in a technology platform to keep it healthy, to make sure the behavior is good. Some of those things are very important to us. We serve the entire student population with some focus on the incoming side and the transition side. But we really want to make sure that we're reaching key populations, underrepresented populations, and students who are introverted and have the greatest need. And I think for students, we're really trying to meet what is the number one need, and that is they need a little help making new connections. It's their greatest fear that they're going to go to school. I'm not going to meet anybody. I'm not going to know anybody. I'm going to be alone. So that's what we try to do. We've got lots of partners across the spectrum of universities and colleges, small privates to giant public universities, like we're talking with Cal State Northridge today, probably the largest of our student population clients. Getting a lot of media attention. We see this recent Forbes article. It was an article in University Business. Just before that, it's an article that came out today in eCollege News about some of our work. So we're proud of what we're doing and the impact that we're having. To give you some insight into what exactly Nearpeer is, let me show you this. This is a little introductory video that the student government leaders at CSUN recorded in front of our sort of user experience videos. This will be a couple minutes, and you'll have context.
Congratulations on your admission to CSUN. Hi, my name is Cheyenne Moshtal, and I serve as your Associated Students Student Body President.
And I'm Eden Shashua, your AS Vice President. AS Student Leadership serves as the primary advocate for students of this campus. We're here to represent you.
And this is a special university, and as fellow students, we believe that a special sense of belonging here is incredibly important. And what better way to do that than with Nearpeer? We've devised a new system as fellow students to be able to create a sense of belonging for incoming students, be them local, transfer, or international students.
Nearpeer is an app that will help you connect with your classmates before you come to campus this fall. You'll be able to find people in our community that share the same interests as you, such as travel, music, sports, and TV shows. You'll also be able to join student groups, such as transfer students, orientation groups, and LGBTQIA+, and more.
Welcome to the CSUN community. Now go find your people, and we'll see you this coming August.
Then brief insight here to Nearpeer.
Hey CSUN students! Invited to join Nearpeer and want to know what it is? Nearpeer is a new, really easy way to discover other students at your college who you have tons in common with. But what's different about Nearpeer? Platforms such as Instagram or Facebook can be good to stay connected with people you already know. But what about figuring out who you want to get to know? Nearpeer does just that. It helps you find other students at your college with shared interests, majors, life experiences, and more. Create a profile, enter your interests, a quick bio, career goal. You decide how much to share about yourself. And you're in. Now check out your peers by clicking the Discover tab. Nearpeer's matching algorithms instantly show you who you have the most in common with at your college. To meet peers, you don't have to introduce yourself in a large group if you'd rather not. Just connect and engage one-to-one. And if you're a transfer student, veteran, or international student, Nearpeer helps you find others with shared experiences. Wondering which students live near you or have a hometown near yours? Tap Find Peers to search by location, and then see what else you have in common. On a peer's profile, press Connect, and when they accept, you can message directly to get the conversation started. Use the My Groups tab to discover the groups created just for your college. Nearpeer is the single best way to meet the students at your school that you're most likely to really connect with. Sign up and download the mobile app at nearpeer.net.
So it's a little bit about Nearpeer and how we hope to help people find their people. That's really what we're all about. You're all dealing with some macro issues overall, declining high school grad rates in some states, some regions of the country. There's an enrollment cliff that has been coming for some institutions. We can't change that, but what we can change is enrollment and completion rates, and I think that's why we're all probably gathered together today to have some discussion around this overall. These challenges are distinct based on ethnicity, gender, and socioeconomic status. Those students who are in the three lowest quintiles for economic status, income, basically, have a lower college going rate than their wealthier peer groups. I mean, not surprising, but a real problem because the benefit that can happen for people who are in the lowest quintile is tremendous. And I think we'll hear both of our panelists talk about that today. Males are making up less than half of the total college enrollment today, and males are only 64% of them are attending college at this point in time. Ethnicity, similar patterns, and I think all of you are trying to deal with these very significant macro challenges. Beginning with on Bakersfield, we saw 70% female, 30% male. In certain ethnic groups, we see that college attainment is growing, but the gap is staying the same. So some real problems, and I think we have some mission-based institutions with great leaders who are really trying to do something meaningful on this side. So I think we'll start with what we can do differently, starting with CSUN. And David, maybe you can talk about some of the things that you're doing to address these problems, your views and perspectives, some named here, Culture of Caring, other projects and resources, and then we'll get to the Nearpeer study. We know you do a lot at CSUN, so I'll leave it on this slide, and love to hear your thoughts on these challenges.
Sure. So I think, like most of you here in this webinar, you're at institutions that face enrollment challenges. Some of you may not, at least in terms of the getting students to be aware of your institution, recruiting those students, and enrolling those students. That's one piece of the pie. And then the more important component is how then do we support them and create the conditions in which they're going to thrive at our institutions and ultimately graduate. And I think when we, at least at CSUN, we think about the creating when we talk about a culture of care, we're really talking about a community in which we are working to create spaces where students flourish. And there's actually a lot of research around human flourishing, and positive psychology has enabled a pretty deep understanding of the things that contribute to human flourishing. And one of those pieces is sense of belonging. It's the in terms of Nearpeer, which we'll talk about in a second, it's the first part, but it can't be the only part. In order for people to really engage and integrate and involve themselves in communities, they not only need to see themselves and others, but they need to be able to participate purposefully and feel like they have something to contribute and so to that community. And so these different initiatives, whether it's EOP, Black Male Scholars, or our mentor programs, are all designed to take initial connection, build on that connection, and then launch students into the communities on our campus that help them to connect purposely to others. And of course, we're really interested and focused on how that also happens in the classroom, how students can connect with their faculty members and feel like they are valued in that conversation. And so all of those components are in play, and we're really what we're really focused on is how do we create that community where students thrive and flourish. And the other pieces, the recruitment pieces, will then be affected by that, right? Because as students flourish and they engage and have an amazing experience on our campuses, they're likely to then tell their friends, tell their communities, this is a place where we belong and where we can thrive and achieve the academic goals that we set for ourselves.
Perfect. And David, you've been at this a while. We've got lots of programs here. How are things going with some of your priority populations that you're trying to reach and get better levels of college attainment? What's the latest there, just overall on the success path?
So as a campus, we identified Black student enrollment and Asian American enrollment, and particularly Pacific Islander enrollment as communities that we wanted to serve better, because over the course of the last 5 years, both in terms of students that were interested and were applying to CSUN, and then retaining those students began to decline. And so here in the last couple of years, we've been able to see some significant improvement in at least in terms of the application rates of those students, as well as the admission and enrollment of our Black students and Asian American students. But we still have work to do in terms of the retention of those students. And one of the things that we'll talk about here in a minute is the impact that Nearpeer's had on a couple of really important populations for us.
That's great. And I know when we first met a few years ago and started talking about this, you mentioned all these things you were doing, and the next thing you said is, well, this sounds interesting, but how will I know that this is actually having an impact? And that sort of leads us to our next piece here, where we did this sort of gold standard clinical trial, a randomized trial of the Nearpeer impact. Why did you want to do this, David? Well, give us a little bit of background on that.
So there are so many different products, so many different approaches to address student yield, right? When we're talking about enrollment or retention or graduation rates. And many of these initiatives don't have a lot of data to support their impact, or the data that they provide are really based on a biased kind of understanding, meaning that if I'm a student that's interested in CSUN, just by other sort of factors that have been in play, I'm probably going to participate in things that that the institution provides for me to be more engaged. But it doesn't necessarily address the lack of engagement of other people. So you don't really know, is Nearpeer a intervention, or is it a really just a predictor? And what I mean by that is, if I'm just attracting people that are already going to be engaged, then what I'm doing with Nearpeer is I'm using it as a predictor. Well, there's a couple more people here than we had last year, and it can predict enrollment. If, on the other hand, Nearpeer actually has a measurable impact on people's decision to enroll and to retain, then it could actually be an intervention. And so the only way that we could really determine that was to have design this randomized control trial, in which we, as you can see, we split our incoming class into two. These are students that had submitted their intent, and some, in your cases, that might be a deposit. We call them intents here at CSUN. So we split them into two groups, randomly assigned students, both transfer and first-time freshmen, to those groups. And the thing that is really important to understand here is that when we do that, the treatment group and the control group both have people that are going to be naturally and more engaged than others. And so if Nearpeer has no impact, meaning it's simply a predictor, then there's not going to be a difference between the groups. And that would help us understand the value of this particular perspective. And what you'll see here is that there actually were significant statistical differences between the treatment group and the control group that gave us confidence. Okay, this is really, it's allowing people that would normally not be as engaged to engage and connect with students that share common interests with them. And that's the most powerful part of this study.
Terrific. Thank you for that, David, and thanks for your commitment to this study. And I know we want to get this into a journal in 2024 because it's a great study. It's an ongoing study measuring students along their path. So we started measuring these students at the point of that commitment, and continue to measure those cohorts going forward. So these fall of 22 students, we measured them in fall of 23 and along the way, and we saw that as of fall 23, 17% more students more Black students in the Nearpeer group, and 8% more transfer students in the Nearpeer group, and overall first gen, which is a majority of your population, 4% more students there. So how did that happen? Well, we know along the way at these various milestones that MELT was reduced, yield was increased, retention from term 1 to term 2 was improved, and retention to second year was improved. So great stuff here. We have a report that you can find on our website about this that you can go to the website and download that. Maybe Tom will put a link in the chat for that if he has it handy, and we'll take it from there.
Christopher, I'm wondering if I could just interject just for a second.
Yep.
So what Christopher is showing is the results of the randomized control trial. Yep. If he showed you the difference is that just the people that participated in Nearpeer versus those who didn't, the differences are much more dramatic. And that's what I'm talking about, is that when we do studies in which we're just looking at here's participants versus non-participants, you're really struggling with this idea that, well, a good portion of them would already be engaged anyway. So it's not really giving you a lot of good data. But if you see these data, you can be confident, or at least we are, that the impact of Nearpeer really is affecting decisions of students to say, I connected with people that I wouldn't have connected with otherwise because of this platform, and it changed the way and changed my decision about this institution, whether I would participate or not.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think there's one last point there. When we look at Bakersfield, we'll see some of that user versus non-user data, because we didn't set out to do a randomized trial there. And those are very large numbers. And these data are conservative because we did something called intent to treat, meaning that if you were in the Nearpeer group, we're measuring your enrollment, whether or not you use Nearpeer or not. So it's super conservative. So we know the reality, these numbers are great. Numbers from CSUB are even higher. The reality is somewhere right in the middle of those two overall. So with that, we'll take a moment here. Here's a student from fall of 22 that we can hear a little bit from. He talks about his Nearpeer experience.
Overall, it's a great platform, and I definitely found my college friends on there. Rod and Josh, I'm still cool with. We still hang out. Overall, it's a great platform, and I definitely found my college friends on there. Rod and Josh, I'm still cool with. We still hang out.
Yeah, so let's move on and hung up a little bit. He talks a little bit more about his experience and going bowling on campus in the first week because they found each other on Nearpeer, which again sort of highlighted this idea that these are real human connections that start in a tech platform. Okay, let's shift over to Bakersfield and Wayne. Your mission there, your philosophy, and what you're trying to do and accomplish with your students and some of your programs. Maybe you can talk about student access and support, and just other programs that are there, and then we'll go into Nearpeer there as well. Want to give us a little bit more of your broad thoughts on this challenge?
Yeah, thank you. And what David covered was quite comprehensive and for the system as well, and much of that applies to the Bakersfield campus. The one thing I would say about the Bakersfield campus is where we are, which speaks to both a benefit and a challenge, is we are the only four-year college campus, comprehensive four-year college campus within 100 miles of where we are. That's any other university. So you have some schools that may have satellite, very small satellite experiences here, but we're the only campus. And then right with us is, and again, we have 10,000 students, so we're one of the smaller campuses in the system. But right in our community is Bakersfield College, which is a community college, a California community college, which is one of the largest community colleges in the California community college system. So we have this juxtaposition where we're kind of the only ones, right? And you have some other community colleges, obviously, that are much smaller, but Bakersfield College has been here for well over 100 years. They have the football and the stadium, and they have the whole thing. They're kind of that place in the community is very well received, very well marketed and branded. So that one is a partner because that is our number one transfer of our transfer students. That's our pipeline feeder. But on the other hand, it's a competitor because we're all in an enrollment space now where we want enrollment, and so we're all competing for the freshmen in our area and outside of the area. So those are some of the things that we deal with. So from an enrollment standpoint, we're a smaller campus in the CSU system. And therefore, and with the smaller campuses, we've battled the enrollment declines even more. Our campus is doing pretty well. We have lots of work to do, and it takes a great deal of effort for us to not fall behind as some of our other smaller campus peers have done, to great detriment. So as we're in that space, we definitely want to maintain our place in the community in terms of our brand, in terms of our messaging, in terms of the experience. And when students come here, we want them to have an experience that is a positive one, and talk about that experience. Let me talk about one more thing as well when it comes to the Kern County area. If you're outside of California, you might hear that people are leaving California to go to other states. With the exception of Kern County, people are leaving other areas to come to Kern County because it's far less expensive to live here. And so now, with people being able to work remotely and things like that, they'll move here because the cost of living is far less expensive and very affordable. Now, why do I say that when it comes to an enrollment space? Is because if you're a student who lives here, and you graduate from high school and you get a job at Chick-fil-A for $20 an hour, you can get a nice little apartment, have a little car, and live your life. And so the question then becomes, what's the value of going to a college or university if I can just get a pretty good job in town, get some full-time work, and I can support myself and live my life? So we battle those kinds of messages as well. So retention, even when students start, can we keep them motivated to stay rather than saying, hey, I got a couple of years in now, maybe I'll go into law enforcement, which is very big in this area with many opportunities. Maybe I'll just do my 2 years and do that, and I'll be good and start my family. So we have lots of those kinds of issues to battle.
All right. And the student access and support initiative that you have, what was your thought process in creating that? What is that all about, and who are you trying to reach?
Thank you for asking that. So one of the things that we've done in doing some data-driven work in our enrollment spaces and really looking at our campus is kind of, as David mentioned earlier, is looking at areas that were declining. So certainly when you look at, even though we are a Hispanic serving institution and the majority of our campus is Latinx, we noticed a trend over the last 5 years that there was a constant decline in the number of students, and certainly the number of males in the Latinx community. We also noticed the decline in African American students and Black students. Interesting, in Kern County, there's a decline in white students. And so we want to make sure that all of our students are well represented. So one of the things that we did, and in California, I'll do this really quickly. I hope I'm not taking too much time with this.
No, you're fine.
One of the things in California that was passed a long time ago was Proposition 209. And Proposition 209 said that colleges could not admit people or employ people based on their race. And so that was a removal. So before, you used to have programs that would specifically not just target students, but offer admissions to try to create a kind of an equal playing field, if you will, with those from different groups. Well, many years ago, back in the 90s, when this happened, I was actually working in a different system at that time. When that happened, you started to notice some declines overall in California. So this is not a new thing for us. In California, however, there's been this sense on many campuses, and I used to work on the same campuses as David, so we were both there together. But one of the things that we noticed there is there was kind of a reluctance. There's nothing breaking any rule about reaching out and offering presentations or anything like that to students of different ethnic groups. But there was a reticence, there was a hesitance of having a fear of breaking the law. And then also, when students are admitted, they're already accepted, you can reach out to students in different ethnic groups, but there was kind of a reservation for that, or there was kind of a resistance to that. So on this campus, I created a department specifically to unapologetically be able to reach out to groups that are underrepresented. So we can do outreach to those groups and go out to the communities and specifically identify organizations, clubs and organizations on campuses, community organizations to reach out to different populations. And then after they're admitted, we can see who's been admitted and encourage them to come to our campuses, but not stopping there, offering supports to make sure that they stay enrolled. So that's the student access and support area. And like I mentioned, white students are included because if that number is declining, we want to make sure that we're seeing why and that we're offering supports there as well.
Perfect. That's very helpful. So I know we decided to collaborate and work with Nearpeer at CSUB, and you shared some goals of that with us that fit into that broader context of all the things that you're doing there. Make an immediate impact with those students who are incoming. And for the poll question at the beginning, we heard that your staff was very busy with a lot going on, and could this just be launched and work in the background for you? And we took that approach, which is one of the options that we have, and then continue to build on the momentum that we had, even with that quick launch and that earlier launch. And you brought up the spring of 24 was going to be the first time that you had first year students starting in spring. So right now we're targeting those students, and they were just invited yesterday to the platform. So we're waiting. A bunch of spring 24 transfers are already in, but we're trying to make this easy for you. So just launching the emails and communications has been the focus overall. So a little bit more about the experience within the platform at Bakersfield in their first term together with us. One of the places where the students can interact is in a group. So students not only find people with whom they share a lot in common, but they can talk in a group. And this was incoming transfer student groups, and we're seeing the student support. So when we start thinking about, well, how does this work? Students engaging with one another is a powerful, powerful force. And this powerful force and support that comes, one student telling another, "You're going to do great, Priscilla," right? That has more power than we can really imagine when dealing with another student. That being said, optionally, staff can be in the platform as well, and prompting students to do certain things is certainly possible there as well. You mentioned Bakersfield College. This is a transfer student from Bakersfield College talking about her experience in Nearpeer. She's actually being interviewed by our student intern from Cal State Northridge, so you'll hear her too.
I loved BC because that was my little community college, and I also had worked there, so I knew everyone. And it was a different change, like moving to a different campus, especially one that was further away from me. And I think my biggest worry that I had originally when I first was enrolling was that I only had one class on campus because my other ones were online. So I did find that difficulty in making friends and everything, but I think that Nearpeer has helped a lot with that anxiousness, only because it is comforting not only for me, but for a lot of people to get to know people online before you get to know them in person.
So, how do people get to know each other in Nearpeer? Here's an anonymized student from Cal State Bakersfield, and you can see all the things that this person has shared about themselves, including, of all these things, what are their 5 passions off to the side here: anime and DC and Marvel comics and boxing and the Lakers, right? Those are their passions. The students very thoughtful. You see in this yellow box here, how they describe themselves and what they want to do. Career aspiration is another field that students share in Nearpeer. About 2/3 of the students share their career aspiration, which is actionable data that we can give back to you. But it's this multi-dimensional nature of Nearpeer that really makes it sort of different. Like to say, this is who I am. These are all the things that I like. And then our platform algorithmically matches students with other people who make good friends because they share a lot in common, and they can really have a natural jumping off place to talk about something. One of the data pieces that we give back are, what are the most popular interests? And these were those at Bakersfield in the fall. We see some things like anime. That was number 4 on the list. 12% of all the students put that in their profiles. So that's powerful. We saw little insights like reading was higher than watching movies, right? That might be surprising, might change some programming that we do. And then, as we learn about our students, we learn new things that we may never have heard of. Demon Slayer and The Weekend, as administrators, we may not even know what those things are, right? So it's interesting insights that we can have, but there's a certain depth too. Not only do we know that people may like to read, they can share their authors. This is from a profile. Someone said all their favorite authors. And we've seen where students start chatting about, authors that they share in common, who their favorite poets are. So this idea of micro community, finding my people, whatever that is, not just what everybody likes to do, but what I like to do. So for example, like with anime, within the platform, we can see, okay, I'd like to send a communication just to the people who chose anime, and it'll show up on their phone in the app. So in this case, we're seeing the 29 people who chose anime in their profile, and then they were sent a message that says, hey, they can be sent a message, there's a watch party coming up on Sunday, come there. So then people come together around something they like. So we're not trying to communicate everything to everybody all at once, but to people with what they care about. Very easy to do within the platform. So quickly, I want to get to questions in just a minute here. There's survey opportunities in here. This is from a survey of the Bakersfield users. 60% of the students who said they had felt some social anxiety about starting school said that Nearpeer helped them. So I think this mental wellness component is important that we're talking about here. Other surveys you can push out. What do you need help with on the new FAFSA? Anything that you want to do is possible to survey about. Here, this is data comparing users and non-users at CSUB. That's the level of study that we've done there so far. And you're seeing huge differences. So to David's point earlier about there being a signal from students adopting Nearpeer, voluntarily adopted Nearpeer, overall, the students who didn't melted at 1/3 rate from Bakersfield, where the Nearpeer uses only 2.6%. You see it across those populations as well, target populations like the males, 30% versus 6.8. So big improvements here, gives us some insight. But again, this is actionable. I know now that if a student hasn't adopted Nearpeer, they're a drop risk, they're a no-show risk. So that might trigger some of the other things that we might do to engage them. So with that, I wanted to ask Dwayne and David, your perspectives on the difference between what's happening in here than what might be happening in a social media environment. This is a peer engagement environment, is how we like to describe it. From what you know about it, how do you think it's different? Either one of you can weigh in.
So I would say this is that so one of the issues that we have, and I think this exists across university spectrums, when we're talking about transfer students who actually transfer have engagement opportunities at their community colleges, and when they transfer, they don't necessarily, they're kind of this hybrid space. They're not like first year students who'll come in and yes, they get the orientation and experiences and the rah-rah, but they've already been to college experiences. So sometimes they can get taken for granted because some of them are older, they already have college experience, and maybe they don't need as much help. And so we've created a transfer resource center here for them, but there needs to be more opportunities for engagement without them getting lost. So having a source like Nearpeer allows for an organic exchange of questions, of conversations, of something natural, of, hey, I tried to register for my class. Is anybody else experiencing this? Rather than on a large social media platform, you can't be as specific. And then certainly for us as freshmen, we opened up to first year students for spring for the first time. Reason being, because you have some first year students that really don't know what they want to do in the fall. and they don't make a decision, and they'll just choose not to go anywhere in the fall. But then they'll make up their minds later that maybe I should be in school once they experience some of those months not being enrolled. And so having that second chance opportunity to come in if they haven't enrolled anywhere else, we noticed a nice bump of first-year students coming in. Well, they certainly need opportunities of engagement because typically campuses are not set up for spring to receive first-year students in the same way they do in the fall. So this gives another engagement experience that once again is organic for them.
Great, thanks for that, Dwayne. So I know we have all sorts of institutions on the line. Talk to the public space. Here's Butler University, a student here. Just listen to a couple of seconds of this, talking about the experience there at a small private college as well.
Thinking of like having to make friends, having to make these new connections. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't had to do this for literally my whole life. Like I did it once in like second grade and that was it. I'm terrified. But Nearpeer has already reached out to like a gym buddy, the captain of the volleyball team. These people that like, I'm like, wow, you guys just look like good people. Why don't I just reach out? And so far, it's been like miraculous. And
so we won't watch more of that.
Thinking of like,
I think the key thing here, what we saw at Butler University, is that the students said that this really helps me present my authentic self. That's what we're really trying to do. So 87% of the students felt that Nearpeer allowed them to give them a more authentic view of themselves. And just today, Frank Ross from Butler University has an article in eCampus News that you can find that link. Let's move on to questions here. Tom, do you have questions coming up in the Q&A line or the chat line here?
Right, Christopher. Yeah, actually we do. We have a couple of questions. One is in regards to how well non-traditional or adult age students leverage the platform. Do they use it at similar levels as traditional students fresh out of high school? And also we have a question about can anyone download Nearpeer, or is it only for participating schools?
Yeah, so I think, in the profile even of a CSUN, a lot of those students are commuter students or online students. And there specifically, when we look at online students, for example, who tend to be older than the other students, they're adopting at high rates too. We saw with one of the community colleges that we work with that there was no difference in adoption rates for those and engagement rates for those under 25 or those over 25.
Yeah, I can, in the study, and I'm making a couple of assumptions about a transfer student, but transfer students tend to be older students, and the majority actually of students at CSUN attend in person. So we don't have a ton of online programs, but we have a lot of older students. And what the study showed is that transfer students were 23% more likely to enroll and persist as they move through their academic journey. So I think that's a key piece there. In terms of how the app works, I think this is important. I'm going to share a quick story that the institution invites all of its, whatever you decide, admitted students that have submitted a deposit to the app. So they are directly invited. It is a closed system. Only students from CSUN in our case who have been admitted are invited to participate in the platform. So you can't download it and then participate in the CSUN version of the app. You have to be invited, and it is that closed system. The other piece that I think is hugely important is that there's no video sharing, no other pieces that are part of the platform. So it is essentially a text exchange between students. And then the other piece, there's no anonymity. So you are who you are. And that has a couple of really important impacts. Number one, for our Black students, because the outcome for that particular population was significantly different and improved, where 23% more likely to enroll, or 17%, more likely to enroll in the fall to fall than students that were Black students that were in the control group. And I think it's because this is a safe space where you can very specifically find the people that share your experience, interests, hobbies, whatever. There's very little friction in terms of barriers to doing this. Think about it as eHarmony for college students in terms of they're creating platforms or creating profiles and finding each other. And it really does have an impact. Here's the story. So we have a summer event that we designed for incoming students. And all of these students, right, they haven't met each other. We haven't done new student orientation. What we discovered in looking at the interactions with students is that they all connected together, different groups saying, hey, I'm going to be at this event. Are you going to be at this event? Let's get together and let's meet each other. And that's what happened. And remember, I talked about at the beginning that Nearpeer as a platform really sets the stage for the initial connection. And our responsibility as institutions is then to build on that connection. So, because it can't just be, hey, I found my people and I feel that feels good. It's got to be more. Right now I'm going to be invested in this community. I'm going to be invited into other parts of the campus that can help me develop and help me find my purpose and my ability to navigate all the different challenges that I'm going to face. And so that's what Nearpeer, I think, does really well, is create that very first opportunity to connect, that then if we do it right, we build on that connection and see some encouraging results.
All right. Well, just at the top of the hour, Tom, you had one last question, and maybe I can address that quickly, and we'll wrap up.
Yeah, no, I think you've done an excellent job answering the questions. Oh, and right here under the wire, we have one question that just came in. What is the cost of the university and/or admissions to be a member of Nearpeer?
Yeah, great question. And to David's point earlier, it depends on where in the admissions pipeline you release it. If it's higher up, it's to more students versus to students who are committed or starting. But generally, think about it. You can think about it in a way that it costs less than mailing a T-shirt to a new student or buying them a sandwich at orientation. So depending on the size of the program, and anywhere from $5 to $15 per student, incoming student. All right, Wayne, we'll give you the last word to send us off, and if there's anything else that you wanted to add before we wrap.
No, I just think it's helpful. And again, for us campuses and other campuses out there that might not be as well resourced, this was very attractive to me because, as David mentioned earlier, there are lots of platforms that are out there, lots of things that exist. But to me, this was a high engagement and high impact platform with minimal resource to be captured on our end. And so just very happy with that. And it's something that we're able to use and engage students. And we engage all new incoming students, and it's very, very helpful for us. So just happy to be part of it. And thank you for allowing us to be part of this experience.
Terrific. Thank you, Dr. Cantrell, Dr. Defoe Hunter. And, I'll just say that, our goal, we want to reach your students in the greatest need. I think those are the most important students here. And I would love to talk to you about your challenge on campus and if we can work with you. So thanks, everybody, for your time today. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye now.